And we're back with the question
My
and answer
sample
session.
is quite misty right now.
Oh yeah, you've done this in the second. It's not the first time you've done something like that with that on Captain's Table. You did it last time too when we were on here. By the way, it's a what is that? Mad Scientist's Brewery or something like that.
A Mad Scientist Brewery from Hungary. Yes.
Yes. So
Is that a beaker, by the way?
yeah.
It's yeah.
I thought it was a beaker. I just had to confirm.
Yeah. It's 0.4 liters, but yes, it's in the shape of a beaker, but it is a beer glass from Mad Scientist Brewery.
Yeah,
I like it.
My favorite glass right now.
Now, Paulie, we need to get some of those beakers for the bar. That'd be a perfect glass for Evercrack.
Old Man Al, we could get that, but there's only one place that sells them, and it's Microtech.
Now, Paulie, that's not a bad idea. We might be able to have some viruses, or get into some of their systems and muck up their production cycles. I'm just saying.
And I see Echo's enjoying a good fizz. So
that's the peach one, I believe.
Yeah, it's the peach. It's the peach.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Fizz is one of the few drinks. Actually, had a black market form around it because they couldn't keep up with demand. So people were hoarding and selling fizz,
scalping
fizz for a long time because they couldn't keep up with it.
That's cool.
Is that one of the drinks that Terra Mills has also got the rights for? I'm pretty sure.
No, that's Pips.
One of the very few.
That's Pips. Fizz is owned by.
I know Pips is Terra Mills, but they seem to own pretty much everything.
Bevic Group is the one that does that. But Bevic is like, if you can think of like Hostess versus Little Debbie, sort of that's sort of the debate. I don't know if they have those sorts of concepts.
Coke versus Pepsi.
Coke versus Pepsi, yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Coke versus Pepsi. There is in lore. It's Terra Mills and Bevic Group are the two ones that are like Bevic. I think Bevic Group makes a bunch of the bars and stuff like that, and some of the other drinks. So I have to look them up. But
has anyone seen like the redesigns, like fan redesigns for the Fizz cans on Reddit?
No,
those are very nice looking.
Nice.
Very very modernistic and maybe not as commercial.
Oh, well,
I kind of like them.
Maybe some collector's editions there for CIG.
And I think Scavenger's 676 there is suggesting Drake cakes as being Evercrack cakes, but I'm not sure, like brownies, but...
Well, we're already off track, and we're getting started.
Where's edibles in the CIG?
That is a good question. Where is that? But before we get into any of these other things, this is the question and answer session. If you missed the live session where we talked about the future of racing, and racing currently, we talked about the Crux Cup, we talked about all these other things. Right above Darj's head, again, sorry Darj, I keep doing that.
Stop it!
Click that link, and then you'll be able to go to watch that live already if you can watch this after the fact. But for now, let's get into some of the questions and answers, with the first question being asked by Mountain Doomy, who asks, who's winning the race for Super Bowl champion?
What's the Super Owl?
I don't know. All I know is the Eagles are in it. I don't know who the other ones are. I think the Chiefs.
It's the Galaxy, isn't it?
Yes, the Galaxy is going to win. If you haven't, if it's still up, go watch the Azteca Deportes, their video for the announcement that they're going to be covering the Super Bowl this year, because it is bonkers, and I love it.
Ooh, Toast is going to have a field day on that.
Oh no, yeah, the you could hear the cracking of knuckles from Ortwin and Toast. They're just like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, where shall we begin?
I mean, they were.
How big of a check can you write us, Azteca Deportes?
I mean, how bored have they been since the entire Crytek debacle?
There we go.
Like they've been champing at the bit for some fresh meat.
Yes. All right. So, but I really don't know. I don't follow. I haven't been following football since the Raiders moved to Vegas because I'm just like, no, I'm done.
Hand egg. Come on, man. It's hand egg.
All right. Hand egg.
I'm almost similar to you. I've dropped off watching the football since the Chargers moved to LA. So
Yeah. Were you a Chargers fan?
I was. San Diego Superchargers. Yeah, I was a full-on Chargers fan.
Oh,
LT, Phillip Rivers.
yeah.
I was there at the game when the Giants were playing in Qualcomm, and whenever Eli got the ball, the whole stadium just burst into Eli sucks. Eli sucks. You could just
my
hear
God,
it on TV. You could just hear it.
I miss
But,
that so
yeah,
much. Like, you don't get that in NBA.
No.
Like the only thing the NBA, the hype people in the arena can get them to do is go defense, defense. There's no imagination in the cheering from the stands. Like, you go to a European game. Oh my God, you get some weird chants going on. Holy shit!
Yeah. Basketball. I don't know what basketball games you're watching. I think I watched too many hood games.
That's right. Alex
the
dog. Alex the dog. That's right. The Bolts. And
all right.
and that year was also the year the game before or the game after it was the Chargers against the Broncos, which was also playing Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning was loved, and Eli was hated, and it goes back to the drafting history. But anyway, that's
all right. Next question.
Our showing his knowledge.
This is not racing.
No. Next question comes from, it is sports though. I'd love to see, speaking of sports, CIG, where is Satterball? Please.
No, where's Satterball? We know the men who love it, but where's Satterball?
Yes, we all we know that they want to do it. I'm sure it's when EVA is done because they're working on EVA stuff. So,
just a slight tangent because Billsrad mentioned something. English football gets personal AF when the Scottish national team played the Irish. The Scots fans shouted at the Irish, "We hate the English more than you." That was the chant.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. All right, so next question comes from Pacecape, who asks, do you see CIG adding racetracks for ground vehicles, or is that not a big priority in the near future? We sort of asked that, but that's a more direct question.
I thought we kind of dealt with that, but...
Echo, what do you think? Do you think we're going to see specific racetracks?
I think so. If the PTV racetrack is anything to go by, CIG want to do GravLev tracks. They want to do cyclone tracks. So wheel vehicles, GravLev, open field tracks are probably on their horizon. I think we've got a lot to look forward to.
Okay, Darsh, what do you think?
God, can you go with Al for a bit because I'm just googling something because the word is not coming to me. I need to Google.
That's okay.
Al?
Look, I think I'd agree with Echo. They want to, and they have with the PTV race track, which I think harkens back to the old PTV track we had in our hangars, which was just the obstacle course. I know there's an issue with the PTV track at the moment that the little jumps that you do in your PTV were great in Evercardi when the PTVs were immune to damage, but now they seem to blow up after a while. So,
but yeah, there's a bit of a thing with the cyclones during the demo rally. It was something to do with the coolers. No matter what you did to them, they would just overheat and just die. So they actually had a provision in it. So at a certain point, you were allowed to pull up a fresh cyclone and have it delivered to the race and have them swap vehicles. So it's probably just a bug in the game.
Yeah, I think there was a time of they died after 3 hours of being spawned.
Yeah.
So you'd spawn the ship, and 3 hours later,
it was just like a very rapid deterioration of durability. Yeah, so it just got to 0 and then just stopped working. Yeah.
I will say I'm hoping for 2 different types of tracks. I'm hoping for your traditional kind of endurance racing tracks. I'm also hoping for more tracks like we see with the PTV, but in like a stadium or like a small area. So you could have like an indie track, for like for the
No,
Indy
no, no, no,
500.
no, no. Paul,
Uh,
Paul, Wipeout.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking,
Wipeout,
dodge them,
With
the smash bash,
with
crash
the
them up.
Yeah.
with the Dragonfly, the Cover Quad, the Nox, and the X1 that they announced on SCL that they're working on next, just Wipeout style tracks with boosts
Demolition
and
derbies.
yes.
Yeah, I love to
I'm
see
with
those
you
things.
there. I love Wipeout, and I don't know if anyone's seen this, the Redline anime,
Yeah.
where it's just like an illegal gathered race with highly modified cars, and it's super dangerous with a stadium. Yeah, that would be amazing.
But demolition derbies, that'd be cool. And I can remember back when PTV was in Arcorp.
Yes.
What were
that
people
was more
doing?
Carmageddon than a military derby.
Yeah, but people, running anyone over or ramming them into each other. But yeah, it was.
But there's definitely space for it. Like for instance, I could also see like an endurance race around Hurston, around Lorville, like a track that they could build around Lorville. That's just that goes
around
to
the
each
city.
gates.
Yeah,
just entirely around the gates of the city.
each gate's also a.
But that's
pit.
slightly more that's more sanitized. There's no boulders. That is just like a maintained surface that you can just drive on, and it's more about how you control the vehicle instead of how you are able to navigate the boulder field. Yeah.
Some stuff like that. And I think we talked about it before. Having roads between the different outposts and using those as racetracks would also be a great idea, just because that allows for that sort of experience for it. So if there's people have been asking, well, what are roads for? It's like, it's for racing. that's what would be for games.
Now, I'm Walker 300. I'm working on getting those racetracks around Hurston Central, so that you can take those vehicles around, and so security can get to those trouble spots really quickly.
Old man Al's trying to stop my revolution from before it happens. All right,
He's a Hurston.
Darj, what do you think?
I think I interjected with all my thoughts. So
Okay. All right. Okay, this is another good question. I'll start with you, Al, on this one. What are your thoughts on foot races, like running races, endurance races? Do you think those will ever officially be official or player run?
I think given the way in which we're going to have a small boost to our physique,
skills,
if you're doing certain abilities,
but it's
it
doping
makes
though.
sense. It is
You
still
could.
developing, but I could see that being something. It could also see triathlon.
Yeah.
So you do a foot race, you do a bike race, you do a vehicle race, then ship race. So I could see that thing being in. The question is, how would you balance it so that you actually, doing a 2-hour run across a desert might be boring as batshit to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Might be fun to do, but might be boring as batshit to watch.
GTA 5 had a triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want 100% that, it is one of the most boring things in the game. So, on foot, even if CG tries to push it, I don't believe they're gonna have as big a following as it is on races, because there isn't much excitement.
Yet.
Unless you have sand people trying to snipe you when you're trying to do the snake bit. You have snipers on the cranes.
Or critters trying to eat you.
Yeah.
So you're doing a land race around on Microtech.
You know what? I just realized something.
Huh?
Running Man. You could have it like the
Running
Running Man TV show, the movie, The Running Man. With Schwarzenegger and stuff like that, with like a crazy death race sort of on foot.
Yeah,
that could be fun.
They would need it would need to have a certain aspect to it that's not just in regular racing, because the point of running a marathon or having the fastest time over 100 meters is to push your physical body to its limits.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have that in Star Citizen. Everybody is genetically identical. So
Yeah. Even with the skill boosts and like as you talk
Yeah.
about doping, like I'm sure there'll be performance drugs you can do, stims or something like that to try to give players an edge in combat.
mandatory performance drugs that I can get behind.
Yeah. but like, yeah, it's hard to make it interesting. Echo, what do you think? Do you think we'll see on foot racing?
Oh, it's already there. And I want to shout out my friend Diplomat who makes SCR.gg. He makes a community racing leaderboard website where you can post time trials and have them validated. I'm a validator there for the Crux Cup tracks. But he's made the Prison Break a foot race time trial that you can post submissions for. He's also making a track editor where you can submit your own tracks. You can race the gurneys around the hospital,
Yeah.
and that is a lapped race. He's got all of the stuff coming.
It
I was
seems
gonna
that is
mention
all adding something to just the regular foot race.
Yeah.
Some exciting element to it,
Yeah.
like the prison escape or the gurneys that could kill at their whim.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like
Oh,
they're
that's super dangerous.
and there's so many things glittering those hot corridors at times.
Yeah.
It's not just
AI, other
the running
people.
race. You've actually got to avoid tiptoe
invisible geometry.
gurneys and-
Yeah.
So yeah. I'd forgotten about the gurney race, and when you started talking there, Echo, I was yes, and the gurney race that they
Yeah.
do that. one. So yeah.
I do think that though that's more of an example of players interjecting their own experiences with it. I don't think CIG will officially support many of this stuff unless they can figure out a way to make it engaging, because that may be something CIG does, post server meshing when the technology they're not working on basic technology, they're just trying to add cool things, something that like I could definitely see a bunch of developers spending a weekend and just doing that for fun, just to try to create an on foot interesting race for players to do with the tools they have or something like that. But
I know your idea of who would host your idea of Running Man, Paul, and I thought that was too far out of the wheelhouse of even Hurston.
Well, that you could do that in Pyro as a great way of capturing people and having them for sport, having to fight your like almost gladiatorial arena style, but you got to run, but a race where it's like if you make it out of this alive,
you make it out of here alive, and you're free. And the second you're in, you take me into the bottom room and we kill you. Yeah.
And you know what? They already do that in games. We know that works because it's the gulag in Warzone and Call of Duty Warzone. They do the same thing where if you lose and you get a chance to get an extra life with the gulag. So, all right. Next question comes from Ionic Gecko, who asks, do you think there will ever be relay races in which you swap out into various different vehicles, like from a ship to a hoverbike or a wheeled vehicle, when you hit certain checkpoints? Darj, what do you think?
That's interesting. I think that's like piggybacking onto to our idea about triathlon, but actually making it interesting, like switching classes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my phone just died. That is actually an interesting twist on like making it exciting, like going from a cyclone to a dragonfly, and then to a Spartan, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Just going from. I'm getting ideas. Yeah, that would actually be interesting. I don't think CIG, at least in its current state,
that would be difficult to pull off. I think
it would be difficult to pull off, at least in its initial. This seems like more of like a expansion on an expansion sort of sort of idea when it comes to racing. But it is interesting because multi-class is interesting because not everyone people tend to specialize instead of being very good at several things at once. So they would be very good at high speed hover bike racing, but then really suck at the Spartan stuff, which is very slow and it requires meticulous manipulation of the terrain to traverse. So that would be very interesting. Come to think of it. So in addition to the
Echo.
Crest Cup, maybe.
What do you think?
There's a lot of logistics involved, but I think a relay race would be amazing for content creators or a charity stream where everyone's just trying to compete and raise money for something and just doing silly activities. Maybe they're stacking boxes, they're drinking beer and trying to also shoot some of those beer bottles as well as part of the relay race. Just some silly activities for people to do. I think a relay race would be quite entertaining for that.
One thing that I wanted to just say, that like relays, there's different kinds of relays, but getting to a particular point and handing off your racing position to another person, that would be interesting, because then it's not all the people in a team doing the race at the same time all the time, but it's like one person has this section, the other person has this section, and a third person has another section, so you can't influence anything more than your section of the race that has been determined in advance. So once you're done, you become a spectator, pretty much,
Okay.
or maybe part of the support. That sort of relay would be interesting. I wonder why Dave Morelli hasn't done that.
They have sort
officially. Kinda, yeah.
That's what Stanton 7 is. But the problem is that they don't do it all concurrently. It's like each race is its own setting, and then they do a different race, but then you keep the setting and that kind of stuff.
No, but I mean, like if you take Dave Morelli, because unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm familiar with. Apologies to everyone involved with the Crest Cup, Algared, Echo. I am familiar more with the Demo Rally just because I am one of the pilots of the 890 jump for the VIPs. And why haven't you guys been on the 890 jumps as VIPs? Come on, guys.
Well, now you got to invite them.
Yeah, definitely. Next
we'd love to be there.
Next year, Al, Echo, I want you on my 890 jump when we follow the racers. But
I can't this year because I'm actually in the Aurora Classic because
No, for
Demo Rally.
Oh, other races. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you can race an 8. Well, if they fix the docking clamp issue.
No, he's saying what he's saying
you
is
could race the 890 jump.
No.
And I'd be happy to do it, but usually it's.
Al, what he's saying is that Darj actually does VIP treatments where they invite certain VIPs to the Daymar Rally, and you can get onto an 890 jump and watch the whole event from an 890 jump as the racers are going through. So
2 reasons. I wasn't invited.
But I'm inviting you next year.
I'm happy if time permits.
Yeah.
So
it is a 6-hour race. So
yeah, and if time permits, I'd love to.
We usually follow the buggy race and not the other or the faster or the slower races. But where the fuck was I? God damn it! My ADHD is off the charts today. What was I talking about?
We're talking about the relay racing and
right. Yeah.
Why Daymar Rally just do that?
Yeah. Was wondering because they have 3 distinct checkpoints. Why don't they have like a person in a vehicle? Yeah. Just arrive at the state so what they have to do is get out of the vehicle, get into the outpost, announce themselves. So basically, you go through the entire airlock and then go back out. That's how you check in at the checkpoint.
Okay.
Or your companion race event swaps out with you. You go in.
Yeah, another person.
Like a co-driver.
Yeah. Would be because it's such a long race, it would take a lot of stress off of both of the player and the character, because you don't get the hydration and food effects if you are ready to go and fully statted up at the checkpoint. And
Al, what do you think though? Do you think we're going to ever see relay races in Star Citizen?
Yeah, I think one of the races that I've always been keen to do is a logistics race, kind of a cargo Olympics, and I
The
actually
Cargo
think
Olympics, yeah.
that lends itself to being a relay race. You take cargo here, you offload it, you load onto another ship, you go to the next thing. In terms of, to answer Darja's question as to why Daymar Rally doesn't do a relay race in its current form, is because that 6-hour race becomes just you do your leg and then you swap it over to someone else. It's not, you're reducing that impact of being an endurance race. So if you're racing in the endurance race, it's a 6-hour race for you. That's an
Sure,
endurance
but
race.
but in real life
I
you don't have 6-hour
yeah,
stints.
yeah, and I get the idea of that idea of a relay race and having legs. You're doing the first leg, you're doing the second leg, you're doing the third leg. Maybe it's being worth looking at as a class that's running alongside the Daymar relay. Your relay competitors doing the same race, but they've got a slightly different rule set. They're swapping pilots out or drivers out at the different checkpoints.
Yeah, well, the purpose of swapping out the drivers or the pilots in real life racing is just because it is that much more taxing on the human body than it is just sitting behind a computer. So you could technically, well, everybody does. I mean, everybody. The racers do last the entire race, the 6 hour plus race of
Yep.
the Daymar Rally. When they, if it was in real life, that sort of thing, they would be completely burnt out after
Yep.
like a couple of hours, so they would need to swap out. So I guess it makes sense that there isn't one. So the idea of pushing yourself is stretched out a lot more, but in a 24-hour race there would definitely
Yep.
be
Yeah.
requirements for legs like that.
Yeah.
I know it's one of the things that we've talked about with the Crux Cup team. We want to eventually get to a point where we're expanding that from a 1-hour race. And those whole questions of, is it just one person going around? Are we swapping team members over? We haven't really delved into, but the questions we'd be answering. And I know down the track we've talked. What we'd love to do is, I think Gentleman Jazz has mooted the idea of a 24-hour endurance race as a charity event one day or something like that. So that's the type of thing that's in the wheelhouse.
Well,
but yeah,
are you familiar with Desert Bus for Hope?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but if it's anything like Dream Big, then yeah.
They play a game called Desert Bus, which is basically the most monotonous thing ever. It's driving a bus from along the desert from station to station and nothing happens. But they do it for several days continuously. And they raise money for charity along the way.
By doing the most monotonous driving of all time. We've talked about that. I remember talking about that for in the past. That Star Citizen, you could do that with just driving like around a planet. All right.
Has anyone done that actually? Just driven? No. Has a server been stable enough?
Well, yeah. There's been servers that have been up for 24, 48 hours. It's just a matter of like, did people hit it at the right time? Echo, these next two questions are for you specifically. M. Walker asks, are all ships required to use the same components in each class for Crux Cup?
We allow ship modification. You can strip out the shields, missiles, weapons, all of that. We want you to discover how competitive customizing your ship can be, and figure out all of the intricacies of designing your own race ship. Even though it is limited, there's a lot you can do to save weight and to get some more speed out of the ships. It does affect the flight model.
And the next question is for you as well, from Mark as well. I'm curious, does server FPS or player FPS affect race times?
Yes, a little bit. And to mitigate that, we have a race timer. So there neutral to pings and all of that, and they watch everyone's party mark across the line, independent of that. So that's how we can get the photo finishes that we do. So we'll know exactly who crossed the line in first if there's two right next to each other. The race timer and officiator will decide that.
Okay. All right.
How long does it take for results to be posted?
Real time. Our technology will post a stream overlay, a real-time leaderboard that you can watch, and the results are immediately produced.
Awesome. Let me see. There's the next question. I'll start with you on this one, Al. Bill Boy asks, what would make people want to race? Actually, I'll start with this one, and then we'll kind of move through because I think this is a pretty easy one, and I think y'all can kind of jump in. Because what would make people want to race in the PU after all the racetracks are put in Arena Commander, especially once death means more? You're not making money in Arena Commander. If you want to be a racer and you want to do this as a job, like an in-game profession, you can do that now, but you can't do that in Arena
Or
Commander.
reputation.
Or reputation, yeah.
I mean, there's reputation outside of the game, and there's reputation inside the game. Because you can have reputation outside of the game just because you keep posting your videos of your faster and faster and faster lap on YouTube, and you gain a following there. But in game, you may get.
You probably will.
This, yeah. Well, this is like end game. Sponsorship deals from in-game corporations. Like, how cool would that be to have your own very special skin for your ship that only you have because you are the only one that has a sponsorship with Hurston Dynamics.
Yeah.
So you have like a gunmetal and gold skin on your
You're already
Mustang.
on the you're already the Orion racing team for Hurston Dynamics, Darj. We just need to organize the skin for you.
Fantastic.
Also,
no, but
there's also
like that sort of stuff.
There's also the reputation where you can get look, we know that they want to do the Murray Cup in game. That's likely going to be an event using the event system in just the same way that they do other events, just as a reputation base though. Like you're going to have to. We know that they are like WildStar Racing is a thing. You can do the first race in game is in Hurston. And if you do well on that, then you unlock other racetracks as you go forward. So you have to earn a reputation to be able to get those other ones out there.
Yeah.
Being able to like participate in those tracks, and then being able to have enough reputation that'll carry over when you go to say Magnus, and then do the Odessa League or whatever that they will do, and there'll be different leagues like that exist in different systems, and they'll probably have more prestige, which will earn you more money and so forth like that. There'll be a kind of a ladder, that kind of thing.
And if you look at the lore that went in with the Murray Cup, the character in the story called the Murray Cup, I think it was called, they actually had to win 3 races in another competition to actually qualify for the Murray Cup. So if you take that as being what CIG plan to do and what they hope to do, that gives you an idea of where they're heading. And I'll be honest, originally when we were thinking of Crux Cup, that was kind of one of the ideas, okay, Murray Cup's going to be in game. They're going to have these races. Let's make a race that will kind of end up being a qualifying race for Murray Cup. But I now think Crux Cup.
Paul, how long are we into this VIP section? VIP Q&A section?
About 30 minutes.
So it wasn't 5. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. This will ask Echo next one for this one. Fishy asks, you know it, you love it. The question of the age: when will CIG crack and add another light fighter, and what will it be?
Oh my god, yeah. There's a lot of light fighters. Do we have one for Drake? What one would you like to see, Paul? Do you have an idea for a light fighter?
We'll see.
We have deflect there.
We have Drake with the Buccaneer. We have Anvil with the arrow. We have the Gladius with Aegis. We have the Consolidated Outland Delta for the Mustang Delta for Consolidated Outland. I think the only major company, and technically we've got Kruger with the P7, P52, P72, that they're not really light fighters, they're snubs. I think the only ones that don't have light fighters is RSI, MISC, and Origin. Because I think I guess that the 100i the 125 maybe considered for that, but
I would argue that the Aurora LN is the fighter.
I guess you could say that it's a light fighter. So it's a bad light fighter, but
it's a bad light fighter. But it used to be tanky.
Yeah,
it used to be quite tanky.
And then and expat brats bring up that the Razor exists, which could be, and I guess you could say the M50 is also a light fighter because it's an interceptor. I think it's Crusader. I think Crusader's the only one that they haven't really done for that sort of thing.
No, and what did they do with Crusader to bring in a fighter? They brought out an Abomination.
the Abomination.
The Ares.
Yeah. So yeah. The Origin 325A though is a medium fighter. I don't see that being a light fighter. It's much more of a heavy fighter, or not heavy, but it's more medium on the heavier side of the light. I don't know. But almost certainly Crusader. That's their new the one that hasn't gotten a lot. So
I'm with you there. Let's see a Crusader light fighter.
A Nomad Life asks, "Do you have any plans for a Redeemer race sponsored by the AstroPub?"
Oh no!
No, bad Nomad, bad.
I think we could possibly have a new class in the Crux Cup called the AstroPub's class, the
AstroPub Classic, Memorial, which is just
something like that, which is only only Redeemers. just for you, Paul.
I hate all of you.
Paulie's old man Hurston sponsoring Paulie's punishment.
I hate all of you.
You know you love us, Paulie.
Oh.
No, Paulie. No, Paulie. You know you love us all.
Oh, all right. So since some of these questions were pretty quick, I'm going to unpause the redemption. So if you still have questions, feel free to ask. We only got about 7 questions, and they're all pretty quick.
I've got one. I've chucked in because of the conversation we just had. Fishy2951 says, "Does Echo know what CIG did to Paul?"
Oh gosh. Okay, I'll have to explain.
Echo, do you know what CIG did to Paul?
What
happened? How you going to make him explain it? No, he doesn't know. So please, Paul, explain.
So there was a 24-hour charity captain's table I did this year or last year. I can't remember which one that was.
Probably last year.
Because it was last year. Last year, not this year, obviously, last year, but it may have been the year before that. But it was a year that Fair Assault was on, and Fair Assault decided to pitch the idea because I hate the Redeemer. I hate it. Not to a degree where it's like anybody who has the Redeemer is terrible. It's more like the idea that I don't like the ship. I think it's ugly. I think it's terrible. I think it's trash. And I know a lot of people really like it, but it's the thing I just do not like. And it got to the point where Fair Assault suggested that it would be funny if CIG gave me an unupgradable, unmeltable, ungiftable Redeemer. And so at this last IAE, CIG did that. And they called it Paul's Most Favorite Ship is the name of the package. And it's stuck in my hangar forever. And
I just realized what I need to convince JR to make the next kit model for.
Oh no!
And send you one.
I hate you, Darsh.
So yeah,
I will paint it. If he sends me a Redeemer, I promise I will assemble it and paint it and raffle it off for charity. That's what I'll do if he does that. So
well, Paul, what I'll do for you is in the next Scarlet Apex, which is scheduled for June, I'll put a bounty out, an AstroPub bounty to kill any Redeemers in the race and make sure they do not win.
Thank you.
There you go.
That's
a new category just for you, Paul.
All right. Chaos Squall asks, I'll start with you on this one, Al. Do you think the audio feedback is good enough currently when going through racetracks? Would you like to see the arena commander spoken checkpoint sounds in the PU?
I used to turn the audio speakers off. Like I
Off.
hated having the announcer yelling at me in Arena Commander. So it'd be a nice tool, I could imagine, because having those checkpoints guaranteeing you've gone through the checkpoint could be a good thing so it'd be a great tool for organizers, but for players, not
What do you
necessarily.
think, Echo? Do you think they should add some more audio feedback through the checkpoints?
What they have right now, the ding or the ring that they have is quite good. Maybe like a fight if they do lapped races, final lap, or like platinum finish. Just sort of so you don't have to read the UI. It's a little bit hard to read. Just some little extra quality of life stuff would be nice.
Okay, Dari, what do you think?
If they made it more like your pit crew that's talking to you, I think that would make it more immersive instead of just like this embodied voice going checkpoint or
Yeah.
bullshit like that. Because there's a lot of info that the pit crew is supposed to give the racers, along the race, like what position they're in, what the gap to the next ship is, or the one behind, or how much fuel they have until they have to pit and stuff like that. So a lot of information is going back and forth between the racer and the pit crew. So if they did it more like that, that I think it would be nice. But otherwise, just a little bling is fine for a
Okay.
checkpoint.
I like the idea of having a pit crew. It'd be nice to have like some sort of automated like personality that contacts you when you start the race. As kind of like welcome to Wild Star Racing. I'm going to be your assistant today, or I'll be your crew chief today.
Like the F1 whatever 2000 whatever game has it. Like, and you can change the verbosity, and you can talk to it about tires and fuel and pit times and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that is the dedicated racing game. I mean, at this point, I think we're trying to attribute too much complexity to Star Citizen that is supposed to be just a space MMO.
Yes, but at the same time,
not every game ever.
But CIG likes to do like vocal recordings and like do that kind of stuff for like lots of other missions. So having a small little like automated, kind of like the guy from the prison, like those announcements, prison announcements.
Your time is up.
Yeah,
make your way to the exit.
And you can easily wipe like kind of like lure it up as being like these are automated machines or automated systems which are connected to you when you accept the mission, so that they can monitor your ship and they can monitor your race time. You just have a little bit of like, I'm your automated pit crew chief, and you can have someone go fun with it with someone's like super grizzled and being, or different leagues have different.
Gilly.
Different,
we need Gilly back. Yeah. Gilly is a pit crew chief.
Yes.
Retired Marine pit crew chief.
You pick your voice of your pit crew. Is it Tessa? Is it Gilly? Is it?
Yeah. Or each league has its own automated voice that you choose, so the differences between them.
Maybe there's an opportunity here to bring in mission givers. Have a mission giver for WildStar, and then they come over the comms in your ship and start talking to you about the race you're about to do.
There is a mission giver who's supposed to exist in Grimhex, who's a race coordinator. Wally, I think it may be somebody else, but not Wallace, not Shaw. That's somebody else. But there was at one point supposed to be one. So it'd be nice to have that person just kind of roll up and become WildStar Racing's like coordinator.
Yes, that would be sick.
Yeah.
My only reservation to that, because I like all of that, the idea of having those voices to assist you if you want them. But if you're going races where you've got teams where you've got pit crews themselves, having a voice doing the pit crew would kind of be counterproductive to what you'd want your pit crew to be doing. So
well, yeah. But the idea being like,
if you're doing those little missions where it's you by yourself, then those things can be could be advantageous or helpful to you. So
Yeah, you could easily have a toggle somewhere that says turn them off or on. You know, in the
And
Yeah,
that's-
like ship computer voice or verbosity for whatever.
Yeah.
But that could also be something different from just a ding saying you've gone through a checkpoint. You know, totally different from just saying you've gone through a checkpoint. It's saying, hey, the guy behind you is 2 seconds. You've got a good lead here. Okay, yeah, you've got a good lead. Now's a good time to come in the pits, or those types of things are actually valuable if you're doing a race. So yeah.
Or a pit crew would actually have you would ease off your tasks by them monitoring your ship's durability. So like I said, like whenever is good at time for pit, you don't have to have an MFD just set up to check the durability of your coolers or your power plant or whatever. So you would have the pit crew tell you, yeah, your power plant is not going to last another 2 laps. You better come in right now. So,
Yeah, you better come in. We've got to replace that power plant. Yeah, that type of thing. That's the type of thing I also want to see in endurance racing down the track. The fact that you've got to pull out those components and replace them. It's not. I'd love to see just not having to refuel, but having to replace components,
parts.
And parts. And
like you have to do with brakes on in real life cars. And,
you've clipped that. You've clipped
possibly gearboxes. And if you damage is going to be handled a bit differently because beam citizen.
You clip that gate a little bit too early, and you've bunged up your wing, so you go into pits and they're bashing it or doing something to try and get it back, so you can actually
or even beam citizen taking those the emergency repair goo they can just like really quickly like hit the front to get it
so they can get out there and do it again.
Yeah. But this also going to be completely different if it's a race in Atmo where you need to have your hull be perfectly aligned, so you're not veering to the left and your control surfaces be working, or in space where it's only thrusters that are the important stuff.
All right, let's move on to the next question. There was another question in there about triathlon and Olympians, and I think we already talked about like if that will end up in the game. We said it's like, maybe. It's already sort of there with player stuff, but
burrito toss, torpedo burrito toss.
Before you do move on, Paul, one of the things that we found with Crux Cup is that, and one of the reasons why I think we're not using the Starfarers yet for refueling the ships is because we've found some ships, when you refuel, they stop the thrusters cut, and so that if it's a big ship, it actually puts too much pressure on and snaps the beam of the Starfarer. So it's not it's not there yet to be able to use. So we've still got to use
There's still quite a lot of bugs. Like we tried refueling with the Starfarers, the 890 jump. We tried to refuel it with the Starfarers, and you get it hooked up. So you get the first thing is 890 jump is twice as big as Starfarer, so it's a sight to behold. But as soon as you hook up, the Starfarer does this. It just turns 180 degrees, and it disconnects. And it's just like, what am I supposed to do with this thing now?
Yeah.
So like whether you're on auto dock or actually manually docked with it once, really proud of myself. But then it actually lasted for 10 seconds before it flipped. But on every auto dock, it immediately flipped and disconnected. Like
I find currently the 890 jump once you dock it, it can't be used anymore. Nothing works.
No, I'm not talking about the stations, but the Starfare. When you dock it with a station, completely broken. So this is why we actually lifted off from Area 18 on the ground. Yeah,
but
instead of
Chesler.
That's
why you like you like to use a hanger for the 890 jump. But I wonder whether go on.
And then we refueled at Grimhex at hangar and had to wait because there was a Scorpius just sitting in the big hangar at Grimhex,
wanting to kill you. But I wonder whether the same problem with the docking the docking clamp at stations is the same similar problem you're getting with the docking with the
refueling. Because it's technically the same, using the same system. It does use the same
using
system.
the same system. It's not the same point, but at that point, the energy jump just becomes unusable. You can't power it on. You can't control it, but you can still control it if you're refueling. Just the Starfarer does a 180.
No.
The 890 jump, it's not the 890 jump that
Yeah.
does the 180. It's the Starfire just goes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Let's move on to the next question. I'll start with you on this one, Echo. Would you like to see a combat-focused ground rally? Something akin to Mario Kart, maybe with non-lethals that either slow you down or stun.
I'd love to see it, and I've actually experienced it a lot myself. A good friend of mine, Croncy, runs Mountains of Madness, or Mountains of Mayhem, I should say, which is a ground death race rally around the Mountains of Magda. It's a really fun race. It's a death race. I've brought all kinds of things to that, like the Rock DS with its laser, just for fun. But people bring tanks, ballistas, and distortion weapons to disable their components. You can do it right now.
Mountains of Madness is something completely different.
Yeah, To the Mountains of Madness is a completely different thing. What do you think, Darsh? Would you like to see a Mario Kart and Star Citizen sort of racing? Death
Sure,
Race
but
2000.
what would a blue shell in Star Citizen be?
Some Xi'an weapon.
Yeah, probably.
It would just be a cannon that shoots out Grey Cat PTV wheels because they're super destructive in the PTU right now.
But how do they know to target the leading racers?
It's just the right kind of technology. That's all. Chat's right. It's Picos. It would be Pico bombs.
Pico bombs and,
Yes.
you toss Picos out the back and they boom, or you toss the
I could see something like this though. I could see something like this with the hover vehicles, because the hover vehicles all have guns, but like when you're dealing with like the Steve or the Cyclone, like the base Cyclone, none of them have weapons, so it'd be a little bit more difficult to do those sorts of things. But like putting like distortion weapons on a Dragonfly, because the Dragonfly can hold a lot more, I think, bigger guns than any of the other racers can, or any other hover vehicles can.
Ones, so
I thought it was size 2s. Is it size 1s?
size ones.
size ones, possibly gimbal bone may have made it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But something Bullsrat just mentioned in Dragonfly in a sidecar. I'm gonna tangent off of that. If you're familiar with sidecar racing, you have two people on a motorbike, or a very specifically shaped motorbike on 3 wheels, I think. And the second person's job is to lean out of the sidecar to change the center of gravity so they can go sharper and faster around the corners. This is something that could work with a Dragonfly because it has a second person seat. So you could have the passenger go like left and right, leaning completely off, and change the center of gravity to allow it to turn corners faster. So alongside already being like the fastest bloody thing in the game for surface racing, it could actually make it like a lot more maneuverable, because the Nogs doesn't have a second seat, the hover quad doesn't have, the X1 doesn't have one.
No.
Yeah.
Al, would you like to see a ground focused like combat or ground rally ground race with more like combat focused on top of it?
I think there's an appeal for lots of those types of racing. Am I into ground racing or racing particularly? Not really.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a type of thing which does give people that challenge to be able to do different things. I could see a real position for it in Arena Commander or Theatres of War or something like that, because Death of a Spaceman counts. But then again, if you're entering one of those races, then you'd expect that the rewards for winning that race are going to be super, super valuable. Otherwise, it's not. If I've got to put my life on the line just for the kudos of winning, it ain't going to happen.
Okay.
And so.
Yeah. All right. Fishy asks, if CIG were to redesign your dream ship, or to design your dream racing ship in game, what would it be like? Darj, we'll start with you on this one.
Sorry. Can you repeat that?
What is your dream? If CIG were to design your dream racing ship in Star Citizen, what would it be?
Jeez, what would an Audi R18 LMS be in? It's a good question. It would be very robust. It wouldn't be a fragile thing.
So something tough.
Yeah, something tough, something made by Anvil.
An anvil
There's
racer.
an Anvil racer, yeah, but it would be hyper focused to be the best in class, because that's the sort of thing, like
Something that may
it
sacrifice guns for more durability or stuff like that.
yeah. And it would be quite heavy, so it would it wouldn't excel through the corners, but it would be unbeatable in a straight line. So
We'd have the
yeah.
anvil drift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of auto steer, it would be anvil steer.
Yeah.
Anvil drift.
Echo.
Darj, you said this before, and I'm stealing your awesome reference because it's one of my favorite video games of all time. Wipeout. I want to see a ship that's Gravlev, maybe ships that can go into a Gravlev mode, and then Gravlev anti-grav ships as race cars would be so cool to see in Star Citizen.
Nice. Al?
Apart from having unique racing skins where we could actually choose the decals that went on the ship, what I would like to see, I'll move back to the mic.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little quiet.
Sorry about that. Apart from decals, which we pick the companies that you were putting on your ship and put those on, I'd love to see a dedicated pit ship. So
Okay.
I know I think the Crucibles would be probably the ideal because you could hang in there. You've got the cargo, the garage and stuff. But one where it's a dedicated pit ship where the ship comes in, it's got crew position. I think the Liberator is close, but it's only a one-man ship. It doesn't really work for that role of being, a pit crew working on the ship and being able to do those things and having tasks that they could do. So having storage for your components and having storage for, fuel tanks that you can actually use to fuel your tank. Those types of things. Maybe or even picking up the idea of a ship that refines or modifies the ship fuel to make it high quality. So, and having that have an impact on a ship, on racing. So, not necessarily a racing ship, but more of those ships
A support
and enhance
proper
quality
support infrastructure, not just
So,
personally, I'd love to see a Drake racer because right now we have the kind of the racer in terms of straight line when it comes to the Herald, but something that's more built around maneuverability, something that's little like because to me nothing screams racing like a small cockpit and a giant engine. Just a ship that's just a cockpit and engines and just goes. Closed cockpit. Yeah, something like a Herald, but Herald's too big. Like cut the Herald in half and stick the front of the Herald to the back,
So people are saying the Buck.
Sort of, yeah. The Buck now is super fast. I think it's a much higher acceleration speed compared to what it used to be. But like
and I can see a couple of people commented on me. Expat said the C2, modified could fill that role. Someone else said the Vulcan. The Vulcan is a ship that could do the role, but it's not a one that's used as a full pit crew where the pit crew have got to do stuff, And I'd love to see it more of the hand, using things like hand refueling or taking out the components and replacing the components and that type of aspect. but maybe the Vulcan is down that line, but it doesn't feel like it is. But
I'm also going to say the meme answer as well, because people are saying the Buck. If the Buck counts as a racer, then my meme answer would be an Argo racer.
Yeah.
Yes, Argo.
Talk about something that's built tough and maneuverable, but not fast.
I pasted a link to what is probably a very, very, very good moment in sidecar racing, because sidecar racing is insane. So imagine that, but with a dragonfly.
Oof, damn, that's nuts.
Yeah.
And
so
and
that's
Shady
the
Phase
sort
E?
of center of gravity manipulation that the second person on the sidecar does.
Yeah, I don't know about the sidecar racing because I hadn't heard of it before, but I do know on the small sailing ships, the small sailing ships where they have
it is the same thing. It's the same thing, but on like
road.
this far from the tarmac, doing 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. So that'd be cool. Shady Phase E. I did mention the crucible would be, but it seems to have everything automated.
Yeah.
And that's not really, it's losing that aspect of the pit crew doing the stuff.
Yeah.
And
all right. Next question comes from Gentleman Mange, who asks, Al, why are you so handsome? Also, Echo, what is the number one feature you're looking forward to help facilitate races? So, Echo, what's the number one feature you want to support races? The answer
we're
Al's
glancing over Al's a very important question.
Well, I mean, I can already answer the questions because it's all about the bow ties, because bow ties are cool.
Yeah. Because bow ties are cool.
No notes. Carry on.
Echo.
Race timing. So right now I've had to program a race timer myself to run multiplayer races. It would be great if CIG provided a system to automate the recording of laps and times.
We are getting a stopwatch. So do you think what's missing from that? The in-game
So that's self-timing. It only appears in your ship UI. It's not spread to other clients. It's not synced to other clients. We'd have to watch everyone's Discord live stream, but even that's quite cumbersome. It would be better if there was a role for it.
Like a server authority based timing.
Or a way you could link your timers to a central timer.
Well, if you are using checkpoints for it, then self-timing just really doesn't come into play, because as soon as your ship, I guess the center of your ship crosses a checkpoint, that is when the timer starts. So that is all server-based anyway, instead of client-based.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like the idea being, like, eventually we're going to have the idea of beaming data between different ships for things like command and control ships, for being able to observe a battlefield or observe a location, to be able to figure out where everyone is. So something like that, but with, instead of having the data be the data that's coming in, you just link the timer. So like a timer would be linked to all the different ships, so that one CNC command and control like ship would be able to determine that's what the links for this, the checkpoint for this, checkpoint for that, checkpoint for that. So like they could see that each ship's doing that. So.
No, I still feel like that would be more server authoritative instead of client authoritative. Instead of
but that would also be
having the players start the checkpoint. It would automatically start when they.
Yeah, but you still need to have some sort of linkage, because otherwise you'd have to have CIG give out the API, and CIG is very reticent about giving API out to anybody.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
For individual time trials against, where you're training, that works, but the race where you're actually racing against others, that doesn't work. I think Daj, that was Gentleman Jez, and he is, I believe, very much into the endurance racing stuff. So you should reach out, and you guys would probably get on.
Are you saying Gentleman Jazz or Gentleman Jizz?
Jers.
Gentleman Jez. Well, I would say Gentleman Jez. Like,
yeah, it's like
J-E-Z.
Yeah.
Oh, like Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd say Gentleman Jez.
Jez. Like Jez.
I keep hearing Jez.
It's because it's Australian.
Not F. Jez.
Jez.
You gotta get used to that.
Yeah.
Got to get used to that Australian name. But he's certainly into endurance racing, and you guys, I reckon, would get on like a house on fire.
I like that term. All right, next question comes from Fishy, who asks, does Echo plan to call these distortion weapon races the Yellow Line series?
That's a great name. Perhaps we can call the practice leading up to Scarlet Apex the Yellow Line or Red Line, something like that.
There we go. Fishy asks, will there ever be a race where ships without quantum drive are launched from orbit down to the planet from hell to race through the wind and the storm? Wind and storm. Is that a reference to Red Line? Is that what I'm hearing? Because I think that's a reference to Red Line. I don't remember the anime, but I don't know. Like, there's really not a lot of places right now that would have that sort of thing. And even if you don't have quantum, you can still fly. So I don't know. I don't know what the question is. Fishy, you're gonna have to kind of clarify that one. All right. Expat Brat asks, one of the most fun things I tried was racing from a friend. One of the most fun things I tried was racing a friend from Orison's old Atmos ceiling in a Herald with a size 1 quantum versus an MSR with a size 2 quantum to New Babbage from hangar to hangar. Would you see the benefit of system-wide racing? And what would that look like? Might be accessible to people who are not so proficient in detail flying. That's effectively endurance racing, or like the what are they called? It's the thing that was inspired by Daymar Rally. Dakar Rally. Yeah. Where it's much more about the distance rather than necessarily the precision.
Kinda. What I would like to see is, and this is what I've actually experienced in the game, is instead of having a slower quantum drive, having a faster, thirstier quantum drive, and having to go from station to station to station and very quickly refuel and then keep going. Because I have like one of the faster quantum drives in my Avenger, and I can't get anywhere in the system. I have to go like 3 steps every time. But with the addition of the landing pads, it's actually much quicker to have that and just go up to the station, land, refuel, and go, instead of having to wait for a single slow dredge from point to point.
Yeah. Echo, what do you think?
That is something how it would influence it, but I feel like just quantum drive races would be a bit boring, because you don't do anything when you're in quantum. It's basically just waiting until you drop out. There's no skill involved.
Echo?
So Enzo Racing, and Al touched on this a little bit earlier. We're looking to expand our types of races, and one of the ideas we have is a cargo Olympics. So the idea is to hand load a hull C or a C2 and race it across the stanchion system. So there's like the loading, and then there's like what quantum drive to use, and maybe you could have like checkpoints that are like to moons or across.
And then the unloading as well. So
that's right, and the unloading at the other end.
By hand.
Yeah.
Whole C.
Yeah, by hand. Yeah. Well,
you
wouldn't necessarily be
3,760, whatever.
You would load the whole thing up. You'd load up.
You would indicate.
No, you would have to load the whole thing up. We're talking about a whole C here.
Daj is a bastard when it comes to the cargo Olympics, but it'd be you're set the hand load maybe 32 SCU cargo, so you open up a crate and take out cargo one by one.
But you don't need a whole C for that.
No. Well, you could do it in the whole C's.
I mean, if the only stipulation is that it's 32 SCU of cargo, the ship you bring would actually make a lot more of an effect.
I was using an example. So you got your 32 crate, like the big cargo crates. You got it in the cargo. So 32 SCU in one of those. You open it up, you take out all the 1 SCU cargo crates. And hey, if you've got a really fast ship that's more cargo, you might do 2 or 3 runs. If you've got a really slow ship, it might take you longer to load that one ship up.
And do it in a single run. Yeah.
So, there'd be those things, but that's dreaming big.
Cargo Olympics as a concept is very interesting, but because it creates possibilities for achieving the same goal in very different ways. Yes.
Mm-hmm. You can also do things like you can have different checkpoints where you're supposed to take, boxes 1 through 35 to this location, and then boxes 36 through 59 to this other location.
Yep.
And so you have
and so your
multiple
cargo
locations.
master has to be important because they've
You
got
have
to
to
make
load
sure
the cargo the right way,
goes
and then you have to unload, and you have to choose which one you go first to, which one do you go to the short route, or you go to the longer route. Those sorts of more fun sort of like decisions matter.
So yeah. So
Josh, we're gonna need
cargo.
We're going to need racing classes for maybe certain cargo quotas. Maybe there's a quota for like Hulley kind of sized ships, and a racing class for middle of the range, so Hull C, and then a Hull A class. So, and then you can pick ships that might deliver that much, but they've got a quota to deliver, and however they go about that, that's the goal.
Or the destination is on the planet's surface. And you can't do a Hulley unless you expect to crash it, because a Hulley can't land.
You can land once.
Or you've got your crew who then bring out their Hullays and unload, and
that sounds like a job for the MPUV.
That's right. The MPUV crew come and stay for day and unload it. So yeah.
Al, what do you think? Do you think there's a spot for system-wide racing?
Yeah, well, I think we just talked about it with cargo Olympic type stuff. So, so definitely a space for it. It's just if you go the basis of what it is at the moment, it's boring as batshit.
I actually think you could do something similar without the cargo stuff, though. I think you could do system-wide stuff. The difference is that you'll have to go into atmosphere. So like a checkpoint being a station, like a ground station or something like that. So you have to check quantum in and then not quantum to the locations, or even quantum in through the locations. But you have to get to that location and then fly to another location, or stop off land and then move on to another location, or have a race course you go to. Like for instance, quantuming from a racetrack to a racetrack, and then going through that racetrack, and then getting out, and then quantuming to another racetrack, and that sort of detail racing being more of the thing that's slowing you down. Having some task or some sort of flying to slow you down.
Being stopped at a ground outpost would be very interesting, because people would start to speedrun that, and it would be ships flying in at breakneck speeds and skidding along the ground.
Yes.
Just to stop. Just get to a stop to get a checkpoint and then start flying away. That would be amazing to behold.
Yes. And it would also be like you'd have to really like seriously, do you want to take the quantum drives that are going to take up a lot of fuel, or do you want to take more efficient quantum drives? Because then you have to stop and account for gas to get the quantum.
Yeah. Just the quantum racing, like we discussed before, I think would be very boring. But having to do something in between at certain destinations, at checkpoints, would make it more interesting. And then having just whether you go slowly between checkpoints or you go quickly and then have to refuel at certain points.
The problem is, as expat just raised, and it was the one I was going to raise, which was your initial point, that initial that you're doing in that quantum jump, that's the boring bit. That's the bit where people go, people watching go, turn off here, because it's 5 minutes of going through a quantum jump is boring. But all the other stuff that you could put in, that becomes exciting. So how do you do that to make, and even the quantum, the cargo Olympics doing that type of thing. What do you do? Is the cargo initially just loaded on in a hiddly-piddly manner, and so while you're jumping, you're actually sorting the cargo? Is that something you do?
Ooh, okay,
But that cargo, that quantum jump would be the thing that makes it not necessarily, wouldn't make it a viewer sport. In that it'd be like a marathon. Marathons are boring when you're watching them. It's that last bit that might be exciting, but yeah.
Unless it's the very first marathon. Well, not the very first, but the very first, proper Olymp. No, because the very first run up from Athens to marathon was like
from Athens to
50
marathon
kilometers.
to Athens.
Yeah,
marathon to Athens, right? Yeah, you're right. Because marathon was what the battle was in Athens.
Yeah,
yeah.
We get there. We won. Dies.
Yeah, and can I? No, it wasn't. He didn't die. The thing is, he won. The distance between marathon and Athens is a lot more than 41 kilometers. It's a lot more than 41 kilometers.
he also ran.
So
in
he
full armor.
ran in full armor, reported, and ran back.
And then died.
Run back to marathon to join the fight. But the thing is, where was it going with this?
Okay,
stop it. Yes, let's just fucking move on because my ADHD brain can't handle it.
It'll come back, I'm sure.
So the next question is from Elwalk, but I haven't played the latest patch. Have you all played the latest 3.18 patch? Like the one that just got released?
The one that came out today? No.
No.
It's just bug fixes.
Yeah, I haven't. Echo, did you play it yet?
They stopped people from drugging each other, so that's good.
Oh, they fixed that.
Yeah,
they fixed it. Yeah.
Apparently, Elwalk says it's very smooth. So, but I don't know. So.
So does that mean expat Brat was no longer being able to do her nasty drugging of people?
That's I mean that's whenever that happens, it's of course tradition to just drug people and steal their stuff. That's what you have to do. The drug wars of Stanton are always nasty. So,
but the thing is, drugging people gives you an SC1, and right now SC1 and SC2 are only a problem if you're poor, which means that capitalism is just fine.
Old man Hurston is quite happy to, and that fits with Old Man Hurston and Evercrack, because we drug the people to keep them happy.
Keep them happy.
Then, yeah, that's what Evercrack's for. Paulie knows, he mixes it.
All right, we've got three more questions. Fishy asks, once we have more systems, do you think we will see more system-wide races with hazards that rare few ships can brave for a dangerous boost? The question I think Fishy's referencing to is, for instance, the Abel Baker Challenge, which is a thing in lore which takes place in the Baker system, where each time you do the race, it changes. So every year, the race changes. Sometimes you have to go through an acidic cloud. Sometimes you have to fly through, ice, a planet that has just giant floating ice, giant ice like crystals on it that you have to kind of navigate around. Sometimes you have to go right between the twin suns because it's a binary star system.
Is the Abel Baker Challenge a reference to that one episode of Star Trek Voyager?
Yes, but it's also a reference to the two monkeys the two American monkeys who were some of the first creatures into space and returned. Miss Abel and Miss Baker. These two monkeys that were sent out.
No, so. but in terms of what it actually is, I think it is a very much reference to that Star Trek Voyager episode where they came across a race between stars, and they entered the Delta Flyer in it. Yeah.
But do you think we'll see more stuff like
because that? Because they had fucking Paris and Bellana drama. Oh god, I hate that so much.
I love that part of Star Trek Voyager, but I like Star Trek Voyager, so I'm a little weird. Echo, what do you think? Do you think we're going to see more system-wide kind of hazardous endurance races in the future?
Definitely. And we have plans ourselves to eventually take Scarlet Apex to Pyro. So we'll need Liberators, we'll need Krakens loaded up to ship all the races out to Ruin Station or the remote areas of the verse to run races around there. I'd love to race around Tamza, the black hole system. I really want to know what CIG's implementation of a black hole is going to be.
I really hope they just go, okay, we're gonna copy whatever Interstellar did. Nolan, can we has please?
Slurped into
Al.
a black hole and life ends. Yes. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see, because we know there's one race so far we haven't talked about is the Dohill Classic.
Mhm.
Around the floating grass bed planet area, where it was a great tragedy.
It's
and-
the
and we
Tohill
only-
Regatta. Yeah.
Yeah, and we know about that because the story about the great tragedy is the race was going on at the same time, and the leader of the race actually left the race to actually go help because it was his hometown, or their hometowns. So there are lots of races out there. All the races have their quirks and challenges. So I expect, yes, we will see system races. It'd be interesting to see inter-system races where the conditions are totally different. So you're set up for, say, Stanton, but you go into a system with a neutron star like Pyro, and all of a sudden that star bursts, you might find yourself dead in the water because, oh my goodness gracious me, I didn't have the right shielding. Or
I think like almost every sort of very populated and UE centric system is going to have its own racing league, but there was going to be one or two overarching leagues that has the inter system racing.
Now,
and there's going to be definitely is going to be one underground racing league that has either a checkpoint or the finish line in Vandal space.
Sure, there'll be something like that, and if there's not, someone will make it. So there is.
Yeah. Glory of Star Citizen, fan community.
Well, what was the problem
Pitchfork?
on? No, I was thinking of Vega. It was interesting that the Artemis Post once had a thing about the teenagers on Vega were doing blading.
Yeah.
And that came out before the Vandal invasion of Vega, which caused the attack. So my question is, were those young teenagers blading actually the cause of the Vandal attack on Vega 2?
There's another classic Algared conspiracy theorist.
I
don't
don't
think
think
the truth. Yeah.
I don't think the Vandal are as petty as that and try to be as vengeful. I think the Vandal are much more calculated in what their targets are.
Yeah.
Instead of just like a couple of teenagers being teenagers.
All right, Darsh, this next question's for you. It's for everyone, but I think this one's because you brought it up earlier. I think this is Fishy's asking this in response to this. Do you think Star Citizen will have in-game corporate sponsors to racing teams?
Definitely.
It has a sponsor racing team. Yeah, we have MISC has a team, RSI has a team, Origin has a team.
It's like AMD is like whatever it is. It's not in real life. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I want more skins like that, like actual skins that you win from being good at racing.
Well, and actual race teams in multiple different sports have multiple sponsors. So like you may have like a race team that has 4 or 5 drivers and 4 or 5 cars, but they're all sponsored by the same corporate entity. So
yeah, I'd love to see that where where not necessarily win a skin, but you get the decal, and then you can choose the decals that go on your ship. And
but we don't even have hacks fucking scanning right now. Decals are years away if we're even getting them.
Echo, what do you think?
There are other games that do have them, so already.
I am well aware.
Echo,
there's a possible easy tie-in with orgs wanting their logos on ships, but then you could create an org which is a racing team and then get your racing team logo on your ship that way. There might be some tie-in
Yeah.
CIG could do there for liveries.
Yeah.
I am for as much customization as possible, because even though I haven't done much racing, I have drawn many penises on my ships with the salvage multi-tool.
With the salvage tool. All right, this one is for you. I think they'll start off with you here, Echo, and then we'll move on to Darsh and then Al. How do you guys think that multi-race missions will work? If you crash into each other and end up dead, will we end up with a crime stat and have to spawn miles away?
Yep, I think there's going to have to be some agreement or contract that players enter, which, voids the criminal penalties you might get from being under the UEE radar. I think there'll be some conditions you sign up to, and that's something for CIG to figure out, but that would be how I do it.
Yeah,
Darsh?
agreed. Yeah, agreed completely.
What about the problem of dying and having to respawn later? How could you see if they could work that? Any idea?
Death of a Spaceman solves a lot of that, because dying isn't that much of an issue anymore.
No, but the respawning is.
Respawning, I would imagine high ticket racing would have very advanced respawn facilities that potentially
to racers.
Yeah, dedicated respawning facilities that also potentially mitigate echo degradation, or whatever the term is. So even if you died in a race, it wouldn't actually potentially it wouldn't contribute to the death of a spaceman counter. So
yeah, the IVS score going down.
Yeah. But like lower leagues racing, where they just say, death would be an accepted part of reality, and if you don't want to accept the risk, don't race. But if you do want to accept the risk, it's part of the reality.
I get that aspect, but what I was hearing in the question was, how do you deal with the issue of we're both racing, your spawn point instead of Hurston, you die, you end up at Hurston. I die, I end up at
I would say in like official racing, spawn points would be set up by the racing authority,
and
in more underground racing, rules would be a bit more lax, and maybe you could trick the system by having your spawn point closer to where the race is than what the other person would maybe. But then again, a lot of people would probably want to game the system by just having their spawn point a lot closer, if that paid attention. Unless your death just made you just finish the race wherever you are. Unless there is a race where dying, respawning, and getting back into the race is part of the race.
Like I know for Crux Cup, we recommend people, set their spawn point to Orison, and if you do crash and you're quick enough, you can, get out, run back to us, and respawn your ship, get in it, and keep going. But that also means that, if that, one of the things I was thinking as a workaround for that problem of going to different centres, even if you haven't said it, is the fact if your ship crashes, the safety teams come in and pick up your body and take you to the local hospital, and so you spawn there. So that would solve. I would see that solving the problem of you respawn back at Hurston, and I respawn back at Microtech, but we're both trying to race at Orison.
In official races, but like in high ranking races, like there's a lot of rules and stipulations that the racers have to abide by, and I would imagine that having your spawn point set to the closest possible location would be one of them. Otherwise you lose reputation with the authority, and then you maybe actually lose your ability to race for that authority.
All right, so I see. So for the mission type things, if you'd almost get a warning. Hey, you haven't set your spawn point here. Otherwise you're going to lose ranking if you die.
Yeah.
Or your favor if you die. Whereas I was thinking, okay, you enter a race and a part of the safety crew just guarantees we'll pick you up and take you to the local hospital where you'll be respawned. So, but I can see your approach to dealing with
Yeah,
that.
no, because that's different. One is actually dying and then having the medical facility clone you up in your body, and the other one is you not dying but being incapacitating and having your pit crew salvage your body and bring it up to a medical facility to be healed.
So
That
I could. So I was just trying
yeah.
to. Sorry, go on.
No, because no, because then it's like if you're down but not out, you could maybe rejoin the race. But if you're down and out, you are completely out of the race. That is then down, I would say, just to raise rules, depending on the authority. Like Robert Voss says in chat, death equals DNF. But
if it's
in more sanitized racing, sure, but in more underground racing, it's like if it's a longer duration, potentially you could come back in a new body and resume the race and still be in contention.
the other question related to this, like I think the discussion we're taking so far is if it's an organised race outside of game missions and the rules that the organisation running the race is set. But I think the other part of the question, apart from that respawn issue, was on in-game missions. So you take an in-game mission. How does that in-game mission deal with that problem of you're spawning at Microtech and I'm spawning at Hurston?
Right.
Um,
the easy A would be dying is just DNF.
Yeah.
TNF.
That could be DNF, could be your, so yeah.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting if there were some races where finishing the race would be so much beneficial to you as a character that even death and respawning and coming back to the race wouldn't deter you from finishing the race. But it's this is more like
It's a bit of a can of worms, really, isn't it? It's a bit of a can of worms where you think, oh, it's an easy answer, but when you start peeling off the different layers and the different things, you go, oh, well, it's this issue and this issue.
Yeah, exactly. It's just down, I guess. Well, regeneration is so new in lore that I would imagine that at this point, it's kind of like it's not it knowing humans as I do, it wouldn't be as much of a detriment to the end goal, just because people would immediately, as soon as they realize that death is no longer an obstacle, they would only consider it as a nuisance without looking at long-term effects of what a death of one or maybe a couple of deaths in a single race would mean, and they would actually be willing to forgo any sort of long-term effects just for the short-term goal of winning a race. It's god layers. It's very ogre. Yeah.
So the original question, though, I think I agree with all of y'all. Like the fact.
What was the original question?
Well, it was. I mean, Al. To be fair, Al kind of added on to it, but the original question was about was about deaths. Still, it was about like if you two players crash into each other, about criminality and that kind of stuff. That's a good kind of.
I would say any official race. Just to answer the question, any official race criminality would be completely out of the question, just because it would be an acceptable risk inside the race, and the organizers would cover any sort of penalties or damages or monetary implications when it comes to a player death.
Yeah, especially if you're in the same mission. The CIG already has the ability. I'm sure they have the ability to set like lethality settings. The easiest way of doing this, and this is going to probably be unpopular, but I think the easiest way to set those races up to make them easier to deal with is to put a green zone around them so no one can fire their weapons. And
but that gets me back to the question of dirty races. Like what about races with guns?
You can do that. But those need to be separate from the from those official races, and you maybe have a green zone that's toggleable when those official races go on, so it makes it a little bit easier. It doesn't prevent you from like ramming from people who just come in to ram or those sorts of things. But
I hope the mission design people aren't watching this podcast because they realize that their workload just got increased by like a tenfold.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of these ideas are also ideas that they've already been floating with. These aren't like revolutionary ideas. No, well, thank you so much for watching. That was our last question for today. Thank you so much to Darj, to Echo, and to Algared for coming in to watching this. Make sure you are signing up for the Crux Cup if you haven't already done so. If you're interested, it's cruxcup.com. The signups are opening until March 11th. Is that it?
March 11th is when they close. Yep.
So make sure you sign up if you're interested in doing it. And if you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that follow button. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, don't forget to check out those sweet prizes for the Crux Cup.
Yes, there's some sweet prizes.
Over 6K in prizes available. So not to one person, but
yeah. But then make sure if you enjoyed this, make sure you're hitting that follow button here on Twitch. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you're checking out Darjanator.com, cruxcup.com, and the Inforunners at YouTube.com/the Inforunners for more information. And if you enjoyed this, check us out live when this is live at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. Love to see you come in and watch it live. And if you're watching this well after the fact on YouTube, make sure that you like the video if you enjoyed it. I want to hear your comments and questions down below as well. I always like to see that because I do read them through. I may not respond to every question, but I do read every one of them. And I'm sure Al and Darj and Echo would come by and answer some of your questions as well. And like I always,
there's that link in the chat there for you again, just for cruxcup.com.
Cruxcup.com.
Check it out. And
also, it's also, since it's no longer the first 15 seconds of the video, shit, fuck, piss, motherfucker.
God damn it.
Yeah, whatever.
Thank you, Darj. Like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.